And we're back for another episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. It's me, John Diadamo. I'm going to be your host today. We are extremely excited that we have a special guest that's going to be joining us in just a second. I do want to remind everybody really quick to like, subscribe, share this with a friend. Anytime you post this on social or tell people about it, then obviously you can double, triple the amount of people in here. We all want to help each other out. So if you don't mind doing that, just take you a second. But I'm going to bring in our special guest of the episode, Reece Kurdyla.
Kurdyla, that's it.
Yes. Co-founder of MGoDAO. Full disclosure, I'm part of MGoDAO, and we're very excited because like many, I think when this whole NIL thing was going on, I think that the question on a lot of people's minds was, what are we doing to beat Ohio State today? And in this case, what are we doing to find an NIL collective or some way to kind of roll up our sleeves and get involved in what's happening? So I thought, you would be a great person to have on, given, your deep knowledge of the space and all of the things that you had to do to kind of get this thing off the ground. So love to just, for those of you who don't know what MGoDAO is, or if you could provide a little backstory, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me on. And so at MGoDAO, we aspire to be a fully transparent, community-operated NIL collective focused on University of Michigan athletics. Our goal is to maximize value for athletes at Michigan through Web3. And so we kind of got our start in the fall of 2021. A few friends and I got into Web3, and we really like the idea of DAOs and the kind of the community of it. And so we had the idea to create a DAO focused on Michigan athletics. So you're probably wondering, what is a DAO? It's a decentralized autonomous organization, which is a group organized around a mission that coordinates through a set of shared rules enforced on the blockchain. So in simple terms, we will launch a governance token on the Ethereum blockchain using a weekly auction. Someone bids and wins the auction, and 100% of those proceeds are transferred to our treasury, and that person becomes a member of the DAO. And that person now has the ability to create proposals and vote on how we spend our money in the treasury. And that will be on NIL deals for Michigan athletes. So, yep, go ahead.
There you go. Well, and that gives people a little bit of a sense of how you're doing things maybe a little bit differently than some of the other NIL collectives. We do have the voice of college football, who is joining us now, Mark Rogers. Mark, welcome.
John, thanks for starting up the show for us here. Appreciate that. Sorry I'm late.
Absolutely.
Great to be here.
No worries. We were just acquainting the audience with Reece, who's our co-founder of MGoDAO, and he was giving a little backstory of kind of how things got started. I know that there's a lot of people in the audience who have heard a lot about the landscape of NIL, maybe how far up or down Michigan is, and making sense of it. And so, Reece has been kind of at the forefront of doing that. And when did you say you started? 2021?
Yeah, so late 2021, we kind of had a soft launch. Actually, it was during the first Georgia playoff game. Ever since then, we've just kind of been building towards launch. We haven't actually officially launched our DAO yet, but it's been a long process of, just kind of getting everything figured out and, making sure we get it right the first time.
Yeah. And I remember, so Ward Manuel, the athletic director of University of Michigan, who Michigan fans have all kinds of opinions about, he did put MGoDAO as one of the official NIL collectives. And I remember that did spike things a bit after that happened. I mean, what did that endorsement do to just really help bring things into prominence?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that really legitimized us as an organization. It was kind of a shock to us, honestly, to see us in that announcement. Just all of a sudden started getting a bunch of followers, didn't really know what was going on. And then I got the email. So it was pretty cool to see that and to be officially recognized by the University of Michigan and Ward Manual. And I think, the deal that we did with Terrace Reed, we got him a saxophone. That was kind of a unique deal, kind of showcases what we're looking for at MGoDAO. So yeah, I think that kind of helped us legitimize us at the school.
Hey, Reece, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And as you well know, there are so many theories, misconceptions out there about what NIL is all about. And I don't expect you to speak for every NIL collective in the country because they all operate differently and in various ways. But just based on your experience and what you've built out now over the last, it's been a year and a couple months now. Well, even before that, before you were planning on launching or doing the soft launch there 14 or 15 months ago, versus some of the rhetoric you hear out there, the misconceptions about NIL and what it's all about, at least based on your experience, what do you hear out there that is generally false?
Oh man. Yeah. I think a lot of people have kind of, I think a lot of criticism that we've seen about us specifically has been, crypto bros just trying to scam people. And obviously that's not at all what we're about. We're all about the athletes first. I do think there was kind of like a gold rush with the NIL space where people, a lot of people were rushing to whatever it is, improve their university standings or get recruits or, buy recruits. And I think most collectives are out there, trying to do well by their university and do things the right way. I know, at the University of Michigan, I'm really happy with the way all the different collectives have come together at the University of Michigan to further our goal of improving the NIL situation at Michigan. So yeah, I think that would be what my answer is. Everyone is working towards a common goal, and that's to better the University of Michigan.
Yeah, and I think that's that's something that when this first came out and the NCAA and the Supreme Court ruling came down, that athletes would actually be able to profit a little bit from their name, image, and likeness, right? It almost seemed like a no-brainer. Like, of course, a jersey sale or a whatever you sell your likeness on a college football video game that may or may not be coming one day. I still don't know when that thing is going to get released, but hopefully soon. But now it's kind of taken life in all kinds of different ways, right? Whether it's corporate sponsorship and JJ McCarthy having a Dunkin' Donuts menu item, right? Or an NIL collective. I mean, just like, how have you seen it grow in the last year from what I would argue was maybe not the strongest start to the NIL on Michigan's part to the whole NIL situation? How have you seen it evolve in the last year to where it is now?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people were frustrated with how Michigan started off in the NIL game, and it's kind of cliche to say, but I think Michigan is kind of doing it the right way. We didn't get out there, start paying recruits to come here. You've seen a lot of schools kind of, set up some deals with recruits. They end up falling through. So, Michigan had a bit of a slow start. I think, the 2023 recruiting class, people were blaming that a lot on NIL. I think there were a lot of other factors that may have factored in there also. So yeah, I think at this point, I think there's, 5 acting NIL collectives now. Obviously Valiant, the premier, organization for NIL at Michigan, doing a ton of great stuff with, signing events, jerseys, bobbleheads, trading cars. They're doing stuff with the National Guard. And yeah, getting all our best players their money, but also getting money for the rest of the team and other sports too. So I think it's really cool. Just kind of showcases the creativity that we have at Michigan and finding cool ways to do things. One thing I really liked was the one more year fund to get a few of the guys back, Blake Corum, Cornelius Johnson, and them. We also have, a new impact or a new NIL collective that I wanted to mention, the Hail Impact Collective, that I thought was pretty cool because it's endorsed by Jim Harbaugh and Todd Anson.
Right.
And
right.
So that's the nonprofit collective, I think that's important to have. Very interested to see where that goes. And what I love about that is this is a great story. It's just kind of a guy who had an idea. I think he was a MBA from Michigan, and he just kind of had an idea. And all of a sudden, he emailed Jim Harbaugh and he got back to him. And now he's working closely with Jim Harbaugh and leading the collective. So I think that's really cool. Obviously, Stadium in Maine with Jamie Morris. The Ann Arbor NIL Club is run by the football team. So, we've got a lot of different stuff going on at Michigan, and love to see it all coming together.
Yeah, you mentioned the One More Year Fund. That's actually something Mark and I have covered on the show once or twice, because I think it's a clear demonstration of what would not have been the case 4 or 5 years ago, right? I think that if NIL were not a thing, Blake Corum wouldn't have come back. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. And then some of the other ones may or may not have come back, but I think Blake Corum would have probably gone to the NFL and gotten a signing bonus check, right? But he came back for another year, right? And so is this an illustration of the kind of, Harbaugh always says transformational, not transactional, right? That's his thing. But that's an example, the One More Year Fund, of exactly that, right? Because these players have put in years of their blood, sweat, and tears into the university already.
Exactly. Yeah, and now they're being rewarded for it. And obviously Blake Corum was a unique situation because he was injured at the end of the year, so it made the decision a little bit tougher. Would he be able to, compete at the combine? Would he be able to work out for the NFL teams? So I think it's great, obviously, because it gave him kind of a little more reassurance to come back. I think he also mentioned that he wanted to just better his legacy at Michigan, and he wanted to come back and win a championship and, win for the team. So he does seem like a team first guy. I think in the past, going to the NFL would have been the financially more beneficial decision, but now I think it actually is a question of, maybe you can come back and make more or equal the amount of money, and or maybe, come back and raise your draft stock for next year. So it's great as a college football fan, as a college athletics fan. You see players in, college basketball also coming back and saying, they can make money in NIL. They're going to come back for one more year. So it's just great as a fan of college athletics to see it.
Well, and people need to realize that when they think the NFL, it's not only like the first round draft picks on the first half of the first day, right? That's those signing bonuses are $20-25 million for the very top, right? So like Caleb Williams, I don't think he would be allured by a One More Year Fund, right? Because he's going to make $25 million. His first, basically, he signs the check. He signs the piece of paper, and he makes his $25 million from whatever the first overall team is going to be. But for a Blake Corum, right, because of his injury, he probably would have gone second or third round. Still really good, but again, then that becomes a lot more possible, and it lends itself to looking years ahead and looking at, okay, now there are some players who are seniors who have gone in the past in the third round, fourth round, but now they're staying for an extra year. Do you think that that's going to help with parity in terms of college football? Maybe not year one, but like when enough of these players are just make the decision to come back instead of go to the NFL.
Yeah, I do think so. You see a team like TCU this year that just had a lot of older guys stay on the team, and that's really beneficial in college athletics when you have a team full of juniors and seniors versus a team of maybe a lot of more freshmen and sophomore stars. So I think you'll see a lot more of those type of teams. Obviously, TCU wasn't built on NIL, but I think you'll see a lot more of those types of teams where guys are coming back and staying. and hopefully it, starts to funnel some of that money away from the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, and kind of allows a little more parity where everyone's able to get paid and come back and represent their university.
Reece, much is made out of the various differences in state legislation and from state to state and how this is regulated or not regulated. How much have you had to deal with, Michigan state law, or are you guys just basically, since you've framed it up so well, you're not even needing to, or that's not even a factor in it?
That has not been a factor for us yet. We've only done a couple deals, honestly, so far. So we haven't really had to deal much with that. It has been pretty straightforward for us so far. Michigan uses a platform called Influencer. They have Victor's Exchange. So you set up the deal through Victor's Exchange. It gets approved by the university compliance. So it really makes the process pretty streamlined. And once the athlete, you mark down what the athlete needs to do to complete their end of the deal. They do that. We complete our end of the deal, and the payment's made. So, it's been pretty easy so far for us. No issues with that yet.
Yeah, and what you mentioned is really interesting, and we're posting the link in case anyone wants to follow you guys on Twitter. David looks like David is helping out there, but this way the link will be clickable. But yeah, when you mention that, you talk about the Victor's Exchange and the systems that have been put in place over the last year. You also mentioned Hail Impact as a positive example, right? And I think it's interesting that they're going to try to give a up to $40,000 stipend to every player, which, from what I understand, Iowa and Nebraska have similar setups because that was mentioned a couple times on various podcasts and things that they've actually, and I was surprised to hear that Iowa and Nebraska had that. I was like, wait, they're on the forefront of this? But now it seems like Michigan is kind of building its own versions of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to have that part of it. And obviously, in order to qualify for that stipend, the players are going to need to do some charity work or whatever it may be to qualify for that. So I think everyone kind of wins in that scenario. Obviously, the football players and, the big names are already doing a lot of work with Moss Children's Hospital and organizations like that. So yeah, it's great to see. And, the players get paid, the charities get their work done, and everyone's happy.
Absolutely. And David reminds everybody that just like Voice of College Football has a Discord, where if you join the Patreon, you can be part of that. MGoDAO also has a Discord, and there's all kinds of fun things that you can do in there. So he reminds everybody to the MGoDAO people have shown up today. I love it. Yeah,
thanks to David. Shout out to David, my co-founder, the brains of the operation. MGoDAO would be nothing without him. So shout out to David.
Nice. Well, you mentioned the I believe it was the trumpet story a bit, but is there like a story of something that you're like really proud about that MGoDAO has been able to accomplish the last year?
Yeah, I think that takes the cake easily. Terrace Reed Jr., his representative reached out to us, was interested in working with us. And she kind of had a very similar vision of what we could be. And that is kind of, focusing on what the athlete is. How does the athlete want to be seen in the community as a role model? And, how do they want to better themselves? And how can we help them do that? So Terrace Reed, he's an avid saxophone player. He hadn't played in a while, wasn't able to bring his baritone saxophone to the university. So, and he was interested in getting an alto saxophone to start playing and practicing. So we reached out. We had a connection. One of our members, actually, one of our co-founders, John, knew a guy with Cameron's Music in Livonia. And we reached out to them, and we were able to set up a deal where they provided Terrace with a new alto saxophone. And, in exchange, he came and picked it up. There was a video. You can check it out on Terrace's Instagram reel. And, it was a great time. We met, their family. We met the Reed family. And Terrace has got a couple younger brothers who are also great basketball players and musicians. So it was a very cool experience, and by far the most rewarding thing that I've done so far with MGoDAO.
Reece, I apologize. You may have touched upon this off the top, but are you a graduate of UM?
Yes, I graduated in 2013, College of Engineering.
We were a year away.
Yep.
2014 here. Yep.
So I got to think that even this only being about 15 months underway and just 2 deals, but the time commitment, there's obviously a passion for this. There's obviously, you've seen this as something that you wanted to, as being the future of college football, college athletics, and wanting to support your university. So, this isn't some small undertaking in regards to, the commitment that you've made and everyone with you to help Michigan athletics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you, how many hours we put into this, just late night meetings, all types of things. Our web developer, Kyle, our artist, Matt, two guys who have done a ton of work behind the scenes, and I hope one day they can get some credit for it. But we've basically a group of friends that wanted to make an impact on our university, kind of found a way to do that through Web3. I think the community operated, fully transparent part about it is kind of what makes us unique, and kind of what allows us to stand out in as just a couple guys doing this as opposed to like former athletes. So we've put in a lot of work to this. Hopefully we can officially launch soon and put our money where our mouth is. But really just want to make sure we are all set legally and we get it right the first time.
So obviously you've been following, the recruiting situation, obviously being co-founder of an NIL collective, it's one of the topics that comes up in the Discord a lot. I know, is the recruiting situation. And in that Discord, it's all the sports, but of course we're the voice of college football. So we're going to talk about the football ones that have come up recently. Obviously, Jaden Davis coming, the 5-star quarterback was so huge, but even this past Friday, with 4-star O lineman Andrew Sprague, who it was like 95% likely that he was coming, but still, like, these are the types of recruits that, when you think about an Ohio State and you think about a Georgia and you think about an Alabama, at that top of the recruiting game, Michigan seems to be starting to gravitate closer to that level. What do you think the impact of some of these recent players that have come to have signed on, especially Jaden Davis and Andrew and some of these? Do you think that that's going to continue to happen and kind of raise Michigan's status in that regard?
Absolutely. I mean, getting Jaden Davis, obviously getting the 5-star quarterback is absolutely massive. You can't really, put a value on getting, that big of a piece on or that early to recruit other players to the class with him. Andrew Sprague is another one. The running back from Ohio, I'm blanking on his name right now, but those are the types of players that you love to see coming in early and that are able to help recruit for their own class. And right now I think, what are we, number 2 or 3 in the recruiting rankings? So we're trending pretty well.
3, I think it's 3 officially now. But then again, every single outlet has their own. So in some of them it's 3, and some of them it's it depends. But I think it's officially 3 now.
Right. So yeah, getting those guys in early is obviously important. We're trending well for a few more. So it's looking good right now. And, Michigan, we've got a pretty big year coming up with the players already on campus. We've been to the playoffs twice in a row. So, I think regardless of what the recruiting rankings say, I think we are, up there with Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State within the recruiting rankings because the product on the field is consistently up there with them. So, I mean, whether or not we finish, in the top 5 according to the services, I think we are already at that point with those other programs.
Well, and that's something I was looking at the rankings as of our Big Ten live show, which is every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern and goes through the night. But I was looking at the top 4, and other than TCU and LSU, it was the same. So you had Georgia, you had Michigan, and you had Ohio State. And where were they just? The college football playoff. So it's starting to seem like, unlike last year where I was very confused, like Michigan getting, I think, like an 18 class, which may have had a lot to do with Harbaugh, talking to the Vikings and other things that were going on at that time too. But now it seems like the people at the top, with some exceptions, it seems like the performance on the field is now reflecting more in the recruiting rankings than it was before. I mean, what do you think what do you think happened there to make that happen?
Yeah, so an interesting thing I've been hearing lately is it kind of takes a year in order for the results on the field to match the recruiting. So you're not necessarily going to win the Big Ten championship, and that very next recruiting class is going to be top 5. So I think we actually, part of it may have been a little bit of a 2020 hangover from when we weren't so good. And then, obviously we had a great year in 2021, kind of struggled in that next recruiting class. But I mean, I think there were maybe a few different factors there. Obviously the Harbaugh and the NFL rumors, and, who knows. But I think, we're finally reaping the rewards of that 2021 season. And I think, the 2022 season and beyond is only going to help our recruiting.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. It looks like we've got a whole Michigan Ohio State battle in the chat. I mean, when is it not? I feel like that's every single video. It doesn't even matter, even if it has nothing to do with Michigan or Ohio State, and it's like Pac-12. It's Michigan and Ohio State in the chat every week.
Hey, it's April 12th. You love to see it.
What are you doing to beat Ohio State today?
That's right.
That's what we so definitely subscribe to Michigan at the Voice of College Football. We just hit 6,000 subscribers. Just past the 6,000 subscriber mark, but still 1,000 or so below the team down south, so to speak. And so please consider subscribing, hit that button, and click the alarm bell, because you never know. We obviously go live on this show, and then we also have our Big Ten live every Monday. So those of you who are here for MGoDAO, please consider subscribing to Michigan Voice of College Football, because we always have something going on.
That's right. I'm subscribed.
Nice. Good to hear. Okay. So Reece, just to kind of go to the field a little bit, since you have brought up, and this is the reason why you're doing this, or one of the big reasons. I shouldn't settle on that, but obviously you're a huge, in addition to being an alumnus, that you love the sports teams and so forth. So how has this emergence of going from a really strong, solid run under Jim Harbaugh to breaking through, and as a 2013 graduate, we can kind of guess your age range, but breaking through You've seen a lot of disappointments, but breaking through to win Big Ten championships and going through Ohio State twice in a row to do it.
Oh, man. So I think I got to start from the beginning here. The first season that I ever remember watching was the 1997 season where we won the Rose Bowl, went undefeated. Okay. And I got to say that set me up for, my expectations were pretty high going from there, and didn't necessarily match up to the expectations until, a couple years ago. So, I mean, Michigan was always pretty good growing up, got to school. Actually, the year before I went to school was Rich Rod's first year. So when I was there, I got there in 2009, saw the last 2 years of Rich Rod, and then 3 seasons of Brady Hoke. So we did have a nice 2011 in there. We did beat Ohio State. I was at that game, rushed the field. So that was a great time. So I did, I can't complain too much. We did get that win, but it was a long journey from 2011 to 2021. And I was at the 2021 game. I'm still a season ticket holder, and that was one of the best days of my life. And I'll admit I could never really fully enjoy that game until the very end, until the clock read 0, or maybe the David Ojabo sack. But I mean, just a absolute release of emotion after that game, and it was great to see. And then to follow that up in 2022, going undefeated in the regular season, winning the Big Ten championship again was just amazing. And you try not to get your expectations too high as a Michigan fan, but they definitely met the expectations last year.
I mean and so you and I are like 1 year apart in our graduating class, and I do remember the Rich Rod and Brady Hoke years of pain, with that one ray of sunshine there that you mentioned, that 1 year, 11-2 that Brady Hoke had. But yeah, it's been one of those like tale of almosts for the last how many years, and then these last 2 actually bringing it back to the level in the 80s where Michigan was winning Big Ten championships on a pretty regular basis. Now the question is, can the postseason happen too? Because that's something that didn't really happen as much in the 80s, right? Bo was notorious for winning Big Ten championships, and then in the Rose Bowl or in the postseason, it's kind of similar to what Michigan's been experiencing now. So the question is, can this passing game improve? I think that's the big question mark, is the passing game, right?
Absolutely.
Michigan can run the ball. We know this.
Yeah.
It's established, and the 2 players that are going to be in the running back position are pretty solidly going to be heading to the NFL after this year. So the question is, can the passing game develop to the level of an elite program, or at the very least good enough to keep defenses honest in the playoffs and the kind of the postseason play?
Yeah. So I think, you saw in the TCU game that, JJ McCarthy is a capable passer, but he could use a little bit more, a few more reps in the regular season, I think. So, that's definitely the next monkey off the back, is to win a playoff game and hopefully a national championship. And with that, we're going to need a balanced passing attack to go with our running game. So we may have overrun Blake Corum a little bit last year. I think we need to, spread that out a little bit more this year and get JJ those reps. So when he gets to the big stage, he's ready to make the right decisions, and clearly has all the talent in the world. So I'm excited to see what he does this year.
So we have our friend of the show, and we always appreciate the contributions, Jason Moose. Question: according to GOJ, OSU didn't even want to. So there's this implication that keeps popping up that OSU didn't want certain players or whatever. But the question here was, OSU even on Jaden Davis's list until like a month ago? Well, I think he was in, but remember, Ohio State was primarily focused on a guy named Dylan Raiola up until pretty recently. And he was I believe he was even committed.
Yep.
So they kind of had to go back to the drawing board when that kind of happened. So I feel like he was on the list, but there's a difference between being on the list and like actively going after and going through the official visits and all of those things that are part of when you're really going after a player.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to know, who's on top of their board. I don't get too caught up in that, but yeah, I'm just excited that we got Jaden Davis. I'll take him. Doesn't matter to me if Ohio State wanted him or not. I'm happy he's blue now. So Ohio State got their guy, Aaron Noland, I believe.
Yep.
So
Aaron Noland.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see, that battle in a few years.
It's going to be something, that's for sure. Yeah, I just think this idea of like, we didn't want X, Y, and Z player. I mean, sometimes that's true. And sometimes, like with the case of Jordan Marshall, 4-star running back, I think we can all agree. Whoever you want a player like that. I don't care what program you're at. You want to. I saw his tape. If you watch his huddle tape for even a second, you can see why schools were after him.
Oh yeah, as soon as you turn on that tape, he jumps off the screen. So I'm very excited about Jordan Marshall.
Okay, Tyler giving a prediction of I'm assuming this is a prediction for 2023. Very, very strong prediction. So we'll have to revisit this in 7 months and see what happens.
27 points seems a little high to me, Tyler.
Let's see. Sometimes you don't get your guy. I mean, yeah. So Michigan knows this.
Yeah,
quite a bit. Until recent years, there've definitely been players that Michigan wanted and didn't get, and sometimes you don't. In the case of Jaden Davis, Michigan did get their guy, and I wonder if the difference between Dante Moore the year before and Jaden Davis this year, I wonder if Kirk Campbell made a difference. Because it seems like they really clicked when they had their in-person visit. Because as we know, he had his visit and then announced he was giving his top 5 out. Like right at, I mean, the timing of that it seemed like that was the missing piece that needed to happen. So do you think that Kirk Campbell and maybe even Jim Harbaugh getting involved himself, do you think that helped get Davis, whereas the Dante Moore situation, he wanted to go elsewhere, clearly?
Yeah, clearly Matt Weiss wasn't the best recruiter. I think Jaden Davis's father told him that to his face.
Yep.
So, who knows? Jaden still may have committed to Michigan, even if he was still here. I think they kind of had that heart-to-heart. And when he told him he wasn't a great recruiter or whatever it was, that kind of eased the tension a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Dante Moore, he seemed like a guy who always wanted to leave the state, so it's hard to know with him also. But yeah, who knows if we had Kirk Campbell at that point at the QB coach instead of Matt Weiss, maybe we had a better shot with him too. But yeah, he's going to UCLA now, future Big Ten player, so we'll see.
Yep, and it's definitely one of those things where I don't know what the impetus of that was, but I was even a critic of always being transformational and saying, well, can we get a little transactional sometimes? Because it feels in the beginning it felt like, okay, the Texas A&M and Miami and these schools were pulling in all these 5-star players, but then what did a bunch of them do after the season where they were at that school? They transfer to the one that they actually wanted to go to.
Right.
And sometimes there's things like playing time that factor in and other aspects. Maybe they don't click in that town or whatever the case may be. There are other factors, but it's starting to seem like the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? And the fact of the matter is Michigan kept 81% of its production, and those that they didn't keep, for the most part, there were a few transfers. Andrell Anthony, who just seemed, other than the Michigan State game, just didn't seem to click with the passing game and with JJ. I was at the Illinois game when they dialed up the perfect play for him, and just couldn't come up with the reception in that one. So there were a few transfer standouts like that where it was obvious they just needed to go to a new place and try it in Oklahoma or somewhere else. But do you think that the approach that they've taken is also now what seems to be helping retain the talent that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Andrell Anthony, definitely more of a playing time and targets related transfer than it is in NIL. I think he was actually doing pretty well with NIL. So, it's pretty clear on paper when you look at, where the guys are transferring from. I know Miami's getting a lot of transfers. Texas A&M, like you mentioned, my buddy Wolverine devotee, we were doing some Twitter spaces last fall, and I remember he called Texas A&M and Miami the NIL frauds. So he called that exactly right. Those teams obviously bought some recruiting classes, and they didn't do so well, and maybe some deals fell through, and now those classes are falling apart. And I think shows, the results on the field speak for themselves, and the fact that, Michigan's not really losing too many transfers, especially due to lack of NIL money or whatever it is. They're recruiting the right guys. They're getting the right guys that want to be part of the program. And like I said, it's cliche, but I think they're doing it the right way.
Can I just mention, our buddy Ed Rogers always likes to poke fun at us in the chat, but let me just mention, this sleepover was Quinn Nordine, and I'm going to remind you, it worked because he was committed to Penn State, and then he decided to go to Michigan. So I'm pretty sure, listen, everybody knows Jim Harbaugh has some quirks, and he was also a kicker. Endearing. What's that?
He was also a kicker, by the way. But
I
guess a lot of people like to poke fun at Harbaugh. He's a pretty easy target. That's, the things that other people poke fun at him for. That's why we love him. So I'll take Jim Harbaugh over anyone else in the country right now. He's my guy. That's my coach. If he's got to sleep over at a kicker's house, then so be it.
Yeah, and that kicker turned out to, at least for a second, he was a starting kicker on the New England Patriots. I know that didn't, I think he got injured or something, but at the listen, Michigan's skill players and special teams, they have been seen in the NFL from time to time.
That's right.
And you've got to admire Harbaugh for a number of reasons here. So he takes over a program, and you guys outlined the Rich Rod and Brady Hoke era, and Hoke was better than Rich Rod, but is still marginal and a debacle by Michigan standards. It's barely a 500 program under Brady Hoke, and Harbaugh has to take over a 5-7 team. He instantly makes them better. He did what he's done everywhere. He has made a stop: San Francisco 49ers, Stanford, immediate returns. And John and I had a conversation a few weeks ago about the measurement, the spot in Columbus in 2016. If that goes, and I'm not here to say that Michigan got ripped off. I would be here saying if Michigan got the call, that I don't know which way it should have been. That's at least my perspective on it. It was so close. I don't know which way it should have gone. But obviously there had to be a ruling on it, and it went Ohio State's way. So it went against Michigan.
Right.
And if they win that game, they're playing for and most likely winning the Big Ten championship. And, just who knows how the trajectory of the next several years would have gone. They played a better season in 2018. They had the same record going into the game, but they got ambushed. And, it just got to a point where it looked like, okay, when is this ever going to happen? It wasn't like he was having a horrible tenure at Michigan. He's churning out 10-2, 9-3 teams. But Ohio State was just better and just elite. And so he obviously made coaching changes on the staff, did a lot of, took the bitter pill of a salary slice. And really, I think that the criticism in the 2020 season was unfair. Sure, the games counted. There was still a championship played and all of that in college football, but still, when you're winning 9 and 10 games every year, and one season you only play 6 games and go 2-4, sure, count it on the record, but don't go crazy like the guy should be fired. And so he overcame all that, and it just seemed to mount against him more and more each year. And just at a time where it didn't appear he seemed to be at his most vulnerable, and the program to be at its most vulnerable, coming off of 2020, and Ohio State, in a sense, coming off a season which they played in the national championship game. They had an undefeated season 2 years before that, and could have played in a national champion, where Ohio State was near its peak. He was able to flip that in one off season remarkably. So he's got to be given a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. And, I know everyone wants results now, but in college athletics, but, I think a team that I look at as a kind of an analogous team is Clemson with Dabo Swinney. And it took him, I think it was 7 years to beat South Carolina, I want to say. And, it took him a while to get that program back up and running. Mm-hmm. And, whatever the parallels may be between Clemson and Michigan historically, it takes a while to get your culture instilled, get your program up and running, get your guys in there. And then, you're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to have those years where things don't go your way. So, I think Harbaugh's had a little bit of bad luck, but, he got his guys in there. I think it kind of all goes back to the type of guys he recruits, where he had, Aiden Hutchinson was a program changing player. Culturally, I believe. So, Cade McNamara, culturally a program-changing player. So those are the types of guys that he's been recruiting. Guys like Ronnie Bell, Hassan Haskins, Rod Moore on the defensive side, overlooked by Ohio State. So those are the types of guys where, you can get your 5 stars in there and they're great, but you need those program guys to really come in and put the work in and day out. And, Blake Corum is maybe, my favorite Michigan player of all time at this point. And he's head down. He's working every single day to get better and beat Ohio State. So, those are the types of guys you need. And I think Harbaugh, it took him a while to figure it out. He definitely had kind of a come to Jesus moment. It took him a while to, establish his identity of, running the ball and defense. That's what he wanted to do. Took him a few coaching changes to get there, but he's there now. So give him all the credit in the world for sure.
I've got to run. Reece, thank you so much for giving us this time. You guys take this home at whatever point you want. Certainly take it from here. But Reece, we so much appreciate you stopping by.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks. And coming up next, we've got Florida State Seminoles live, which is where Mark is headed right now. So I put the link in chat. You can go in there, talk some Florida State football. They're looking like they have with their quarterback and their season. They're looking like they're in a pretty solid shape for 2023. So hear all about that over on the Florida State channel. But Reece, it was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, and just remind everybody how they can get involved.
Yeah. So, just for now, I would say follow us on Twitter, join our Discord, come in, say hi, introduce yourself. You can always email me at MGoDAO1817@gmail.com. And of course, once we launch, buy one of our governance tokens. So join us officially. So always looking for web developers, community managers, graphic designers, anyone interested in Web3 or DAO governance. So, or just Michigan athletics in general. So we're looking to build a community, and come say hi.
Awesome. All right, Reece, thanks for being on, and thanks everybody for being in chat. Whether you gave a super chat or hit the like button or shared with a friend or whatever, we appreciate anything that the community does to make this thing run. So until next time, I'm going to say, go blue.
Go blue.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.